title of this sermon is Sometimes We Must Take Another Road. I once heard someone say, there's no place for politics when you're talking about Jesus. Yes, we have this thing called separation of church and state. Yes, if you come to church to hear me talk about Jesus, you do not want political pontification on Sunday morning. And then there's a text like this one. I cannot tell you how much time I spent trying to avoid politics in this sermon. There's a fundamental problem. In order to celebrate Epiphany, we must read the story of the arrival of the Magi to Mary and Joseph's home. This story drips of politics and oozes political consequences from every clause and comma. Once again, I am reminded of Newton's third law, cause and effect. The interconnection is uncanny. Will you pray with me? Holy God of all, may your message of love and compassion be heard amidst the noise of real-life scenarios of lies and betrayal. May your voice be the voice we choose to hear with the din of world news. Amen. So the story goes. Many years ago, some wise men living in the eastern lands of the ancient world saw an amazing light in the heavens, the rising of a new star. Or maybe it was a comet blazing brightly across the dark curtain of the firmament. And they knew that the rising of this brilliant light was a sign from the heavens, a signal that something momentous, something world-changing had happened. Although we sing, we three kings of Orient are, they weren't actually kings at all. Because of the opulent gifts, historians presumed royalty, but the text doesn't say that. These men were almost surely philosophers and astrologers, and most certainly wise. But whoever these were, these wise men were shrewd observers of the night sky. Those who looked for signs of decisive elements and clues to the future of the heavens. So Matthew tells us that just as Jesus was born, these men saw a new star rising in the western sky over Judea, the land of the Jews. Using all of their powers of analysis and interpretation, they determined that this star was a sign of a new world, a new order. A new king had been born. And the lights of heaven proclaimed it. What they did not know yet was that this new king who had been born in Judea was not the only king of the Jews. The mere fact that these men, outsiders of the Jewish faith and foreigners, were called by God to witness this event, heralded birth of a different kind of king altogether. This one, this baby, would grow to be the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Savior to every person under heaven. His name, Jesus. These wise men wanted to see this new thing that had happened, and they desired to show their deepest respect for the new king. So they set off, and as we heard Christine say, it takes a while to walk from the east to Bethlehem. But where did they go? Well, they're looking for a king, so they went to a palace. The palace where Herod was. It was a logical deduction. Foreigners looking for a king would go to the palace. But in that palace, we soon learned there is nothing but corruption and evil. The Messiah could not be born there. His message of love was to people. And so, unto the people, he was born, away from corruption, away from the trappings of human ego. In our story, the wise men do find the baby king with God's intervention again, and they offer the most impractical gifts. When's the last time you took frankincense to a baby shower? Okay. But these gifts speak of who Jesus was. The gold speaks to his royalty. The frankincense, his divinity, and the myrrh, his humanity and death. And the wise men do not go back to Herod as they were asked to do. God intervened again. Let's face it, most of the time, going back the way you came makes sense. Generally, it's the simplest route. You've done it, you know it, you've learned. And then God will intervene and make a suggestion to which most of us say, huh? Or, you've got to be kidding me, depending on what that route is. Our lives are not open books where we get to turn a few pages and find out how it comes together. What would happen if we hadn't listened to that intuition, or that dream, or that still small voice of God? Sometimes we'll never really know why, but we know that we trust God and we need to take another road. We need to cultivate and develop our connection with God because our lives are complicated. We live in a very political world still. We need to foster and preserve our relationship with God so that we can navigate in the midst of worldly chaos and confusion. And God awaits us. God invited us, the baby in the manger, invited us into the presence of a God who will whisper, nudge, or slam doors in your face to get you to go in the direction he's calling you to. I'd like to share with you a poem by Portia Nelson. She calls this an autobiography in 5 chapters. Chapter 1. I walk down a street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I am lost. I am helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter 2. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place. But it isn't my fault. It still takes me a long time to get out. Chapter 3. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I see it there. I still fall in. It's a habit. My eyes are open. I know where I am. It is my fault. I can get out immediately. Chapter 4. I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I walk around it. Chapter 5. I walk down a different street. Will you pray with me? Oh God, take us to those places where we can truly encounter your Son. Do not let us be dazzled by the powers and idols and false promises of this world, but lead us instead to the Bethlehems of life, where your saving presence can be found and your loving power is truly at work to redeem us all. In the name of the newborn King, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.